A lot of you are asking me, what should I eat? I'm going to give you a bit of a background on my journey with eating. Now, I was pretty skinny when I was younger. And even in the last few years, I've gone through periods of becoming quite thin. And so I've spent a lot of time experimenting with different diets. Anyone who knows me actually knows that when it comes to eating, I exercise extreme discipline. When I was 14, I started to display symptoms, 14, 15, 16, of chronic fatigue. This was also the time that I started to display symptoms of depression and anxiety. And so I started to look into it, and I started to do a bit of research, and it seemed as though I may have had some kind of gut problem. At least that's what the symptoms were showing. And what they say is, if you've got gut issues, you need to eliminate processed food. So that's what I did. I started cutting out all processed food. By the time I was 16, 17, I'd completely overcome my sugar addiction. Although I would still binge occasionally, I didn't need it. It's just something that I did to indulge every now and again. As time went on, my condition didn't really improve too much. It seemed like things got worse in some ways. And so I started to play around with veganism, vegetarianism, cutting out meat, which was supposedly the culprit. And from that stage, things seemed to get worse. And mind you, I wasn't a dirty vegan, eating a whole bunch of soy products and eating a whole bunch of sugar and processed garbage. I was a pretty clean vegan, right? By the time I was in my mid-20s, when I'd really committed to that veganism journey for, would have been a solid 6 months, just straight veganism with the occasional egg as my lifeline, I started to look very malnourished. If you see some of my progress photos on some of my gym shorts, you'll see this picture of me when I was this skinny little rake. My bones were probably pretty brittle. I was very anxious, a lot of brain fog, pretty lost overall. Now, after that time, I started to bring in some more meats, animal products, more eggs, and I started to feel better. Now, fast forward a few years, I still hadn't completely dealt with these issues. I still had low energy, I still had brain fog, I still found it challenging to gain serious muscle. And so I decided to go all in on a bulk, and I just started to eat like my life depended on it. At one point I was eating about 1.5 to 2 kilograms of sweet potato. In pounds, I think that'd be about 3 to 4 pounds of sweet potato. A whole stick of butter, 240 grams, whatever that is in pounds. And I was eating about 1.5 kilos of red meat. This is when I started to get serious results. This is when I gained 30 kilograms of mass. Mind you, not all muscle, but I would dare say mostly muscle. And how do I know that it was mostly muscle? Because of my strength gains. I went from bench pressing 80, 90 kilos when I began at 78 kilos heavy. And I worked my way up to 150 kilos flat bench in 3 months. I was eating like a maniac. I would eat to the point where I would feel sick and I would keep eating. And I wasn't eating junk. I wasn't eating processed garbage. I was eating clean. Now the problem was, even though I got good results, I still hadn't conquered lust. And I think you'll see that the offender in this whole story, from the age of 14, which was the age that I started getting addicted to lust, that was the real problem. It wasn't about food. You see, we complicate our lives with all of these ideas, all these concepts. And we know that it all comes back to female attraction, our primary drive as men, even if we don't want to admit it. We talk about clothes, appearance, swag, food, money, all these externals. But really, it's your magnetism, your bioelectromagnetic field. Now, this is affected by food, it's affected by lifestyle habits, whether or not you're partaking in the herb, smoking, how much sleep you're getting, how much you're training, whether or not you're grounding, whether you've got access to clean, fresh air and you're breathing properly. All of these things affect it. But there's a hierarchy, if you imagine a pyramid. And this pyramid has levels. And things like food are quite low on the level, on the pyramid, in terms of power. They're quite primary. They're quite key to the success of everything that comes above. Quite foundational. But they're not the most foundational. Now, as I went through my journey, my bulk, I gained 30 kilograms, maybe like 90 pounds. I have no idea the conversion rate. In 3 months. And then I released. Got carried away with my girlfriend and I let it slip. Then I got sick. For a whole week I was in bed, eating almost nothing. A bit of vegetable soup was all I could stomach. Because my body was reacting to all of the forcing that I'd been doing. forcing myself to eat when I didn't want to. And this reaction was catalyzed by the fact that I released. And so I dropped down. I lost about 15 kilograms in that week, and the following week, about 2 weeks, I lost about 15 kilograms. And so not wanting to let go of my lust at that stage, because I was still hiding the fact from myself that I was an addict, I swept it under the rug, and I told myself it was just all about the food that I was eating. It's because I was eating too many carbs. So I dived deep into carnivore, listened to dozens of hours of carnivore content, mostly on YouTube, just streaming all day as I worked, all day, just digesting, listening. And I went hardcore carnivore, very strict carnivore. Cut out all the carbs. I basically just ate red meat, eggs, bit of cheese, not too much, very little dairy. And I started to get extremely horny, more intense than ever before. And my lust went to a whole new level. And around that time, at the peak of my carnivory, just being an absolute horny machine, I released at least 10 times in 2 weeks. So carnivore definitely changes you. Now, when I started to go back to the gym, because I had a little break for a while, I'd lost a huge amount of strength, despite being strict carnivore. And I think you know why. You see, this life force is responsible for your energy, your strength, your power, your emotional stability, your ability to attract women, money, opportunities. I've been making videos for about 11 years. In the last 2 months, my subscriber base has close to doubled. And it's because I'm retaining. And not just retaining, it's because I've gone God mode. I've let go of lust. It took me 11 years to build up to 3,500 subscribers. And in 2 months, I've added 2,000. Coincidentally, the 2 months that I've been on retention a little more than that, but since I started speaking about retention, getting real about my journey, I'm attracting, I'm magnetizing. So I want you to realize that the food you're eating isn't the foundation. It is foundational, but it's not the foundation. When you get the foundation right, the spiritual foundation, which is honoring yourself on the deepest possible level by retaining your energy, not wasting it. Not treating it with contempt. This is what you do when you release. You're treating yourself with contempt. You're treating yourself like you're worthless. You're treating your seed, your DNA, your genes, like they're worthless. And so everything you try and do beyond that is going to fail, because that's the foundation. You can have perfect diet. You can have perfect game. You can have a mouthpiece, know how to say all the right things at the right time. You can have the wardrobe. You can have the money. But if you don't have this basic level of self-respect for your life force, all of that shit is fake. All of that shit is baseless. And women will see straight through it. You might be able to convince yourself for a while, but other people aren't going to buy it. It's going to show up in one way or another. And it might take some time, but it's going to show up. When I gained 30 kilos in 3 months, I was retaining. Mind you, I was still looking at the corn. I was still addicted to lust. I was still obsessing and fantasizing all through the day. But I was retaining. And that's how I was able to get such results, which no one believed. No one believed that it was real. I spoke to personal trainers. They said this never happens. You don't bulk that fast. It doesn't happen. People thought I was on roids. This is the power you unlock when you retain. And when you let go of lust and you go God mode, this power is exponentially multiplied. This is what I'm starting to experience right now. For the first time, my appetite is growing. For years, I've had to force myself to eat. Now, I was smoking the herb for several years. I believe that had a large part to play in suppressing my appetite. But when I wasn't doing that, even still, I feel that there was a low-grade depression in my soul, which took away my motivation to eat on the most basic level. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I had from the age of 14 when I started abusing myself, when I started spiraling into anxiety, depression, low self-confidence, trying to make up for it in the years that followed through validation from women, through raising my body count, through knowing how to talk the talk, seduce, get any woman I wanted. I became good at this. I became good at getting women to fall in love with me, not just like me, but actually fall in love with me. But it was empty. It was a shell. It was an act. It was a show based on self-loathing, because I was wasting my seed. So I want you to realize your journey of food is going to be unique. Okay, now we've been taught by the Indian sages and yogis that meat is deplorable. These ones who are supposed to be the most spiritually enlightened. They say that meat is rajasic, the 3 gunas, Raja, Tama, someone else can tell me the other one. The 3 basic life principles, sattva, okay? Now, in order to be in balance and have full vitality, we need to balance these 3 gunas, they call them. You can look up all the yogis and what they say, what they teach if you want to know more about this. And what they teach is that meat is rajasic, which means heating, aggravating. It causes you to feel intense emotions, such as lust. such as desire, such as anger, rage, raja. And for this reason, they say that you should avoid meat and become more sattvic, calm, peaceful, balanced. Eat a plant-based diet, they say. Now, the problem with this is that they're completely ignoring the fact that we can learn to harness this energy, this power. And I believe that revelation happens in stages, and that what worked in one age, one epoch, may not necessarily work in this epoch, in this chapter. We are in a new age, an age of integration where everything comes together. An age of syncretism, synthesis, where all of the religions and past ideas and philosophies begin to blend into one, begin to reveal themselves as one inherent core truth. And so for any of you who are struggling with eating meat on the basis of feeling that it will impede your spiritual gains, I hear you. But I feel that this is no longer the case. And we are called to transmute these lower emotions that get generated, which seem to get generated by eating meat. The reality is they're not getting generated, they're getting revealed because they were always there, buried in your root, and they're being activated by the consumption of meat. So what we need to do as men is not avoid certain things like eating meat, but we need to harness the power. It's the same thing with lust. We are not to avoid sexual contact and go and meditate in a cave by ourselves. We're called to be in this world, but not of this world. And so, I think he knows that I'm talking about eating him. We need to harness and utilize these gifts. Nothing creates testosterone more than red meat, more than eggs. These primal foods which our ancestors ate, which built bodies of stone, which gave them the highest quality sperm, which gave them the strongest offspring, which gave them the most power, which built their magnetic field more than any other food. But again, with the power comes the responsibility. I noticed that the other night when I had a nocturnal release, it was the first night that I'd eaten a huge amount of red meat. This affects you. It's real. It's going to raise your testosterone. It's going to make you more horny. It's going to make you feel more aggressive. All of those masculine characteristics. You're going to grow more facial hair. You're going to feel more potent. It's building your magnetic field. It's building your chi. It's amplifying this process of retention. But you have to be ready for it, because if you don't know how to handle this power, it's going to destroy you. It's going to ruin your streak. It's going to throw you off the rails. So if you're wondering, what should I eat? My challenge to you is to detox yourself from all the processed garbage. That's step one. Do a fast. Do a 3-day fast. Stop eating for 3 days. You can handle it. Don't tell me you can't. Our ancestors periodically went for weeks without food on a regular basis. This is what we did as hunters, as gatherers. What's going to happen when you go 3 days without food is your hormones are going to come back into balance. You're going to start burning fat. You're going to go into a state of ketosis. Your gut is going to start healing itself. Up until recently, I was still carrying belly fat from when I did my 30 kilo bulk. And it's only when I did a 3-day dry fast, no food, no water, 3 full days, out in the wild, by myself, no distractions, no books, no phone, nothing. This is what I did on Christmas Day. And this is going to retune you and realign you to the rhythms of your primal self, of nature. It's going to ground you more than anything. It's going to bring you back down to earth. We need a detox from all this electromagnetic pollution, which we're constantly bathing in, from Wi-Fi, from phones, all this stuff. Get yourself into nature. Stop eating. And you're going to start retuning to your body's natural rhythm, wisdom. They say that when you stop eating, your body kicks in as your autopilot, and it starts to speak to you about what you need to do. It starts to remind you of what's important. It starts to flash images in your mind. This is exactly what happened to me, of what I need to be starting to take care of in my life. You're going to get answers. And then when you come back to civilization, you're going to start eating according to what your body's actually asking for. Because once you've done the 3-day fast, you're going to break cravings. Maybe temporary. So if you start eating the shit you're eating before, those cravings are going to come back with a vengeance. These parasites that force you to go after sugar, to go after garbage, processed chemical trash, which these corporations are trying to jam you up with so that your circuit board doesn't work, so that your electrical field is full of pollution. Once you recalibrate, you come back, you listen to your body. Now, I feel very strongly that because I did that reset, my appetite is now back. And you know what I'm craving? I'm craving red meat and fruit. My body actually wants it, and I'm eating a lot of it now. You'll see in this next few weeks, you'll see the difference that starts to happen in my body. I've been through this process before. I know what happens, but this time it's happening naturally. My body wants these particular foods which are building it. It wants carbs in the form of fruit. It wants fats in the form of animal fat, butter, ghee, egg yolks, and it wants protein. I can feel my strength and my power levels rising in the gym now. Your body knows. It has inherent wisdom. It knows what to feed you. If you listen to it, if you recalibrate it and reset it, it's going to show you exactly what to do so that you don't have to watch these videos. You have all the answers. Now go hit the reset button.